This is my review of the movie Tom Jones. It was released in 1962, directed by Tony Richardson. Written screenplay by John Osborne based on a novel by Henry Fielding. And the cast. In the lead role, Albert Finney plays Tom Jones. George Devine is Squire Allworthy. Joyce Redmond plays Mrs. Walters and Jenny Jones. Diane Cilento plays Molly Seagren. David Warner is Bliffle. Hugh Griffith plays Squire Weston. And Susanna York plays Griffith's daughter, Sophie Weston. Edith Evans plays Miss Weston. She is the sister of Squire Weston. Rosalind Knight plays Mrs. Fitzpatrick. Joan Greenwood, Lady Bellaston. Rosalind Atkinson is Mrs. Miller. And the narrator, a very important member of this cast, is Michael McLamoy. Okay, let's quickly move on to the awards. And there were a lot of them for this film. The Academy Awards. It won for Best Picture for Tony Richardson. However, Richardson wasn't there. So when he got the Best Director vote as well, again, it had to be collected by one of the cast, Edith Evans. It got Best Writing Screenplay for Osborne, Best Music Score for John Addison, who also couldn't make it. Elmer Bernstein accepted. And there were nominations for Finney as leading actor, supporting actor Hugh Griffith, and supporting actress nominations for Diane Cilento, Edith Evans and Joyce Redmond. And they also chipped in with a nomination for Best Art Direction. Golden Globes won for Best Motion Picture Comedy or Musical, and the Most Promising Newcomer, Albert Finney. And that was shared, that award. Nominated for Best Director was Tony Richardson. For Best Actor, Albert Finney. Supporting Actress, Joan Greenwood. And Supporting Actor, Hugh Griffith. And at the BAFTAs, finally, it won for Best British Film. Won for Best Screenplay for Osborne. And Best Film from Any Source. And nominations for Finney, Griffiths and Edith Evans. So you can see that this film was very highly regarded. So here's my review. After the stark realities of Saturday night and Sunday morning, Albert Finney's career took off, and in 1963 he was cast in this lead role as Tom Jones in John Osborne's adaptation of the Henry Fielding novel of the same name. Richardson delivered a wild, bawdy comedy set in England in the 18th century, and it is a real hoot. Finney, in the lead role, portrays a young man with an appetite for the fairer sex that leads him into a series of amorous adventures and potentially dire consequences. The film feels more like a theatrical play to me, with its comedic script and over-the-top acting performances by a wealth of talent that show their skill in delivering for the stage. The film has a constant narration and moves at a quick pace as we hurtle through event after event involving Jones and the numerous women and their families who are affected by him. Osborne and Richardson whip up a frenzy of entertainment that develops its own energy with cinematic gusto for the racy material it presents. John Addison's score, so full of mischief, instrumental and melodic, swings along with the breathtaking tempo of the action. It begins with a bawling infant in the bed of Squire Allworthy, and that greets us from the outset. And this sets the tone for the film. The perceived parents are banished from the grounds, and the Squire Allworthy decides to parent the infant as a godchild and names him Tom Jones. The narration throughout conjures an image of literary works of some style, and usually seen as fictionally immortalised by Shakespeare, among others, through performances in a small theatre and in period costume, and this screenplay followed that view. The melodrama plays out as almost a mock depiction similar to a silent film, aka the Keystone Cops, and there are many scenes without dialogue, just spinet music which enables a comedic message to be shown to the viewer. In capturing the time with realism, we witness a morning hunt of deer with handheld camera. It's visually a spectacle, possibly from a helicopter, albeit somewhat barbaric as the VIP is seen gloating over the catch with the deer carcass. The full picture of how the rich have fun, I would suggest. The script focuses on relationships between young Tom and an assortment of beautiful women from different social classes. But in essence, the notion of sex is viewed by Tom the same with all. Conquest with gleeful passion. For the women, it could be argued the same, although we do see a modicum of recognition of the notion of higher morals amongst the female upper classes. But this is scotched a little when Lady Bellaston appears in the film and feasts her eyes on a young, amorous Tom. Tom is so in role as a lusty young stud. He's quick to take advantage of every opportunity to add another notch to his ever-increasing belt. We also capture how the public view women like Molly, a big-bosomed prostitute. She's viewed as vermin, and attempts to stone her necessitated a rescue from Tom. The hypocrisy reigned even then, it appears. Richardson's intent on offering an historical glimpse at issues in the 1700s are shown, even though, of course, he's got that 20th century touch. But it does mean the characterization of 18th century manners and morals are shown. We see brawling fights over females, the deer hunt, as mentioned before, the use of the word slut, usually uttered by the rich elite, the obsession with wealth and the accumulation of it, as seen when Blifil's mother is killed in an accident, and it's feared that his father will follow shortly. And at the graveside we hear a comment from Blifil. That's another one gone. As for Richardson's directing techniques, he cuts an action with a fast across the frame or clock hand swipe, or to stop the action at a poignant moment for a split-second freeze before jumping onto the next scene. He frames a character face, sometimes in an iris, and he also has Finney address the audience in asides, as when he, suspicious of a woman innkeeper, turns to the audience and asks, "Did you see her take £50 from my pocket?" Another point, when Tom is about to embrace the half-clothed Mrs. Walters, he places a cap over the eye of the camera to deny us the embrace. With Sophie and Tom, we gather an early picture of romance in a perfect country setting, riding horses, a King Charles Spaniel in tow, and all the picturesque wonders of a warm summer day in the West Country of England. This changes, however, when she becomes aware of Molly with child, but the plot is all about their eventual consummation as a couple for life. Before that, though, both Sophie and Tom break up, and there's a scene right out of Hollywood's greatest romantic moments, but it's all a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Tom flees the town for his own safety. Sophie flees to avoid an arranged marriage, and they both set off on the road to London. I just want to make a comment on Hugh Griffiths, Squire Weston, Sophie's father. He's the epitome of a controlling father who's very two-faced about morality. His own lecherous behaviour conveniently ignored when commenting on Tom's gross antics. His acting prowess, however, is another high point. His extravagance, snorting, cursing persona, and over-the-top anger. The journey for Tom offers further scenes that are both comedic and calamitous. A duel of honour over Sophie, an injured Tom rescued by an amorous admirer, which quickens his recovery. He also rescues a waif about to be hung by the redcoat leader, and then the Mrs. Walters returns with favours her thanks at being rescued from the noose. Witness this scene at an inn when the pair ravage on chicken parts and other food, and we sense it as a simulation of passionate sexual athleticism, probably oral sex. I would also like to acknowledge the supporting roles of many. Joan Greenwood as the temptress Lady Bellaston, George Devine as Squire Allworthy, and Dame Edith Evans as the sister of Squire Weston, who is the epiphany of righteous moral fortitude, and of course David Warner as the insidious Blifil. And finally, a mention of the dreaded highwayman, straight out of Dick Turpin fables, but this time it's an old destitute man. Unbelievably, there's a scene when he tries to rob Miss Weston, played by the superb Dame Edith Evans, and we witness a wonderful exchange between them that confuses the robber row ends. And then a second attempt to rob Jones, which Tom easily disarms him, and then hearing his tale believes he is his natural father, and so takes him under his wing to London. Richardson captures life in a bustling town on the fringes perfectly as the camera swoons through. We see prostitutes on the streets. We see a corpse being placed in a coffin. We see merchants selling all and sundry, and there's a cacophony of noise. And it's here that Tom becomes acquainted with Lady Bellaston, and more frolicking happens after that, all with the purpose of tracing the whereabouts of young Sophie. We visit a party of rich aristocrats. It's a fancy dress event, and seeing Tom complete with highwayman mask, with his cheeks grinning ear to ear, admiring the ladies on shows, a thing of beauty. The finale draws closer. Tom and Sophie predictably get closer as Bellaston gets cold feet when Tom proposes marriage. Tom himself escapes the noose, a trumped-up robbery charge. It's a set-up, as you've probably guessed, but Tom is invited back into the family fold, the family bosom, and the proposed union between him and Sophie is sealed. And that's about it, really. Summarising then, a light-hearted, well-acted romp set in the 18th century. Perfect in a theatre setting, but in a cinema, less rewarding, but enjoyable anyway. Full marks for the cast, especially Finney, who continues to shine as one of Britain's great character actors. Get to have a look at it. It's Tom Jones.